road stretched out before me like an endless ribbon of obsidian, disappearing into the inky darkness ahead. It was a moonless night, and the only source of illumination came from the feeble glow of my headlights. I clutched the steering wheel, my knuckles white against the leather, as a feeling of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. I had always heard tales of the dangers of driving alone at night, stories of mysterious figures appearing on desolate roads, of unexplainable occurrences that defied all reason. But I had brushed off those tales as mere urban legends, the products of overactive imaginations. Tonight, however, I was beginning to question my skepticism. The trees on either side of the road seemed to lean in, their gnarled branches stretching out like skeletal fingers. The wind whispered through their leaves, carrying with it an eerie symphony that sent a shiver down my spine. The radio crackled to life, emitting an unsettling static that seemed to resonate with the growing sense of dread within me. I glanced at the GPS on the dashboard, hoping to find some indication of how far I had left to go. But to my bewilderment, the screen displayed nothing but a blank, unresponsive void. My heart raced as I realized that I was completely cut off from any sense of direction. As I continued down the road, a dense fog began to creep in from the edges, obscuring my view of the surroundings. It clung to the car like a sinister shroud, making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Panic began to claw at my chest, my breathing growing shallow and rapid. Suddenly I caught a glimpse of movement in the foggy haze. My heart leaped into my throat as I strained to see what it was. The figure emerged slowly, a silhouette that seemed to materialize out of thin air. It was tall and gaunt, with long flowing robes that billowed around it. The shape of its head was obscured, hidden beneath a hood that cast its face in shadow. I slammed on the brakes, the screeching of tires cutting through the heavy silence. The figure stood in the middle of the road, unaffected by my sudden halt. My mind raced, and I considered reversing and finding another route. But as I glanced into the rearview mirror, I was met with an unsettling sight. The road behind me had vanished into the fog, leaving only an impenetrable wall of white. With a trembling hand, I reached for my phone, hoping to call for help. But as I unlocked the screen, I was met with a blank display, the battery inexplicably drained. Panic surged through me as I turned my attention back to the figure. It was now closer, its eyes glowing like twin points of ember in the darkness. I swallowed hard, my throat dry and constricted. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. No answer came, only an unsettling silence that seemed to stretch on for an eternity. The figure continued to advance, its movements slow and deliberate. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to abandon the car and run into the unfathomable night. But I was frozen in place, my body refusing to obey. As the figure drew nearer, I could make out more details. The tattered edges of its robes, the faint glint of something metallic clasped in one skeletal hand. It raised that hand, and the glint resolved into a long, curved blade, catching the faint light from my headlights. I was trapped, caught in a nightmarish tableau of impending doom. With each step the figure took, the world around me seemed to warp and twist, as if reality itself was unraveling. I closed my eyes, unable to bear the sight any longer, and waited for the inevitable. But then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. The fog began to dissipate, revealing the road ahead once more. I opened my eyes cautiously, half expecting the scene to have been a hallucination brought on by exhaustion. Trembling, I started the car and continued down the road, the events of that night etched into my memory like a scar. The darkness held secrets I could not comprehend, and as the first light of dawn began to break on the horizon, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had brushed against something otherworldly, something beyond human understanding, lurking in the shadows of the night.